I'm Emily.
And I'm Ethan.
We're traveling across America in search of its most captivating communities.
All the while, we're working from the road and taking the adventures as they come.
This is
Remote!
Our story begins on the road, as so many good stories do. As my mother used to say, getting there is half the fun.
I load the car in the morning, spend all the time getting everything perfect. We load the dogs into the car and begin to drive. I turn around 15 minutes later to find everything I've beautifully loaded piled on top of the dogs in a giant mountain with shit spilling everywhere. I stop the car, I sigh, and I load it again. Such is life.
The San Juan mountain range is located in southwest Colorado. On this particular journey, we approached from the north. Our first stop was the town of Ridgway. We came here solely to get some coffee after a night of camping, but it turned out to be pleasantly surprising. Ridgway is obviously in a really beautiful location. Look at those mountains, look at those beautiful trees. But did you know that Ridgway is steampunked themed? The whole town! That's right, this little mountain town is decked out with iron artistry all over the streets, which I did a terrible job of taking pictures of. But trust me, it's there. In addition to iron sculptures, there was poetry posted on the sides of buildings. All in all, this was a very cute little mountain town that we hadn't even planned to visit, but are certainly glad that we did. The last time I visited the San Juans, I was out there with my younger brother, and he wanted to see Telluride. And so we just drove out there, expecting that we could just kind of find a camping spot. Turns out we were wrong. Telluride and everything around it was booked up, even in the middle of the week, probably due to some festival. They're always having festivals there. We wound up the first night at Ridgway State Park. And ironically, we never made it into the town of Ridgway, but our experience at the state park was very memorable because there was a freak windstorm that blew up right as I was cooking dinner. So I had just plated our nice, delicious camping dinner onto some paper plates on the picnic table, and a gust of wind blew up, flipped it over into the dirt. And so I, of course, freak out. I go to try and save whatever I can from the dirt, and, hopefully still have a dinner to eat that night. And then I look over and realize the gust of wind had also blown our camping chairs into the campfire. So here they are, lit on fire. The flames are huge and out of control, and the wind is going crazy. It was ridiculous. After Ridgway, we continued on to Ouray, the outdoor capital of Colorado. Set in a geographic bowl formed by a rugged and steep mountainsides that lead up to jagged 12,000-foot high peaks with several creeks cascading down through valleys and canyons into the city. Telluride, and I think we were both a little bit taken aback by the population there, at least the week we were there. It was all little kids and families. Everybody was from out of state, like just tons of tourists. It was fine, you know, we had some good hikes or whatnot. But then on the way out, we stopped in the town of Ouray, which is on the other side of the San Juan Mountains, and Ouray blew us away. It was like the coolest vibe. There were actually like tons of young outdoorsy people. Everybody's friendly, but it still has all the good parts of Telluride, like the beautiful Victorian homes and the historic structures. You've got like this little town nestled in these stunning cliffs, and you've got the mountain views all around. I mean, it was amazing, and I have had it on my list to go back to Ouray ever since then. This fall, I finally made it back. The colorful foliage and crisp air were so marvelous that we decided to stop for a few extra days in Pagosa Springs. Pagosa is famous for its naturally occurring system of sulfur springs. The most famous of them is the Mother Spring, the world's deepest geothermal hot spring, with water reaching temperatures of 144 degrees. The San Juan River runs through the middle of town, with a newly built jogging trail along the shore. From this public path, you can feast your eyes upon numerous geysers and hot pools. Unfortunately, the highway also runs through the middle of town. It was difficult to fully appreciate this sacred and historic place over the din of horns and construction. The name Pagosa comes from a Ute word meaning healing waters, although a Ute elder once translated the phrase as water that smells bad. The town sits in a high desert plateau called the Upper San Juan Basin, 35 miles north of the New Mexico border. Although it has an elevation of 7,000 feet above sea level, it has an unusually mild climate and sees around 300 days of sunshine each year. It is surrounded by the 3 million acre San Juan National Forest and is adjacent to the largest wilderness area in the state of Colorado, the Weminuche. In the 1980s, Pagosa Springs received federal funding from the Department of Energy to drill 2 geothermal wells to heat buildings in the small downtown area. Today, the geothermal system heats many businesses, keeps sidewalks clear of snow during the winter, and has been tapped for heat in the brewing process by Riff Raff Brewing Company.
This is the story of Pagosa Springs. Legend has it that back in the day, the native peoples that were in the land started to get sick, and none of the leaders or medicine men could do anything about it until they made a fire. And then underneath the fire, they discovered boiling waters, which they used to heal people. Sorry, hold on. But then the white man came and messed everything up, because that's what they do. Before the white man came, all kinds of different Native American peoples, from the Utes to apparently the Anasazi and several other tribes, would come and spend their summers in Pagosa Springs and build teepees and have sweat lodges, and it was a very holy site for healing and ceremony. There were also legends of Civil War soldiers coming from all over the place to be healed by the magical waters of Pagosa Springs, which do have lots of minerals, and it also smells like farts because of sulfur, and it's full of thermophilic bacteria, which like hot water, like me. And there was a guy who was a historian and a writer, and he built a tripod that went over the spring with a wheel on top, and he bought rope. He bought a lot of rope. He was very specific that it was a lot of rope. And he lowered a steel beam into the springs, and despite what he thought, it wasn't straight. It was like serpentine, spiraling. But he never found the bottom, and he used all of that rope that he bought, which was a lot. I didn't like Pagosa Springs because it smelled bad, and there was a lot of traffic, and there were resorts on the springs that were charging people $60 to sit in free boiling water, which comes from the earth, and that seems wrong to me.
We waved goodbye to Pagosa and headed up the Wolf Creek Pass, one of the most stunning and memorable drives in the entire state of Colorado. I'd immensely enjoyed my time in the San Juans, but now it was time to push onward to our next destination.